Now back to Inside Real Estate. Here's Mike the Realtor.
Hey folks, we're back inside Real Estate. Mike Kruizinga here, your host. Hey, time for a little insurance talk. We got Richard Tonihka here, owner of the Goosehead Insurance brand, Richard Tonihka Agency, website richardtagency.com, richardtagency.com. And of course, his number direct, 817-286-2002, 817-286-2002.
For all your insurance needs.
For all of your insurance needs. That's right. What's up, Richard?
Hey, how you doing today?
I'm good.
Well, like we were talking off air, the past couple of weeks we've talked about flooding and earthquakes and how those aren't typically included in your home insurance policy. And I kind of wanted to go over the rest of the items, or not all the items that are typically not included on your homeowner's insurance. Because a lot of us simply don't know. One of the things I was talking about with some people the other day is insurance is one of those things where most people really have no idea unless they get into it and really start looking at their policy about what's covered and what isn't. And so these are just general guidelines of what is typically not covered in your homeowner's insurance.
Okay, good to know.
But there are endorsements and other things that you can make to your policy to where these things are covered. But typically, animal bites. Animal bites for a great many different carriers aren't going to be covered. Even though it's one of the biggest liability claims for most homeowners and one of your biggest risks of happening, a lot of insurance companies aren't going to cover that kind of risk without you making that endorsement.
Okay. So that can be, so for the folks that have large dogs or even little dogs, this is something you probably want to get an endorsement on.
Absolutely. If you don't, obviously, if you don't have a dog, it's not something that you need to consider. But I mean, if you have a dog, and there are different kinds of breeds of dogs that aren't going to be covered by every carrier.
Right.
Of course,
the aggressive breed. Yeah.
Exactly. And so you're going to have to go into a certain kind of policy. And you can have one of the aggressive breeds, but more than likely your homeowner's insurance is going to not cover the risk of having that aggressive dog on your policy. And so even if you make the endorsement for that kind of a dog, you're not going to be covered.
So, all right. So with some dogs, it's going to be an issue, and you're going to be self-covered basically on that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, because folks, you've seen the news. You've seen that folks sue other folks when they get bitten by a dog. So, you might want to make sure if you do have a dog, really any size dog, give Richard a call and talk about an endorsement.
Because they're just like people. All the different carriers have different kind of risks and things that they like and dislike and everything else. So when they're looking at you as a person and your household and everything that you want to have covered, company A may not like you, but company B, C, and D may love you. Mm-hmm. And so getting in and talking to you and knowing exactly what you have and what you need covered is really where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
And being able to make sure that when I propose a policy for you, or when I'm talking to you about this stuff, that it's personalized for you.
Okay. Yeah, this is a great point, because I guarantee, we know the statistics of how many homeowners actually have dogs, and the statistics of them actually knowing about this it's pretty nil, I bet. So
absolutely.
Okay.
And one of the big things is something that affected a neighbor of mine is termites. Termites aren't covered. If you see them, call your local pest company, whoever you want to get out, and get it taken care of immediately, because the more damage that's done to your house is the more money that's coming out of your pocket. I don't know of any carrier that is going to cover that for you. So carpenter ants, termites, all that, really address that as quickly as possible. And this is true with anything when it comes to your house. The more proactive that you are when something happens, the more that the carrier is going to work with you to make sure that everything is taken care of as quickly and as effortlessly as possible. So whether it's putting a tarp over your roof after a storm or something like that,
Yeah, so preventative maintenance, it goes a long way.
And sinkholes aren't covered. It's kind of the same thing with earthquakes. Can you get the coverage? Yes. Is every carrier going to offer that coverage? Absolutely not. But as we're seeing more and more of these all around the U.S., it's something that I would look at and consider. And it's the reason that I've considered earthquake insurance is just because of with all the fracking going around in the area, it's something that me and my family have considered.
Sure.
We haven't considered flood, but there you go. But the second one is simultaneous events. So let's say we have a hailstorm and it floods at my house. The hailstorm's covered, but since we don't have flood insurance, we're not going to be covered. And is that a risk that I'm willing to take? Yes, personally, yes. It's never flooded in my area. It's not even close to a flood zone. So that's the reason I'm not really concerned about it at all. And plus, we're up on a little bit of a hill. But that's where it comes in is everyone's situation is different. So you're looking at the hailstorm would have been covered, but then most of the damage that was done to the house is flood related.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter that the hail damage was done because the flood damage isn't going to be covered. And so they're going to classify this as a simultaneous event. Is it going to be done this way every time? No. But when we're just talking in generalities also, that they're going to classify it as a flood event, and therefore my coverage or my insurance isn't going to kick in. And so all the damage would have to be paid out of pocket.
Okay, so in the case of a simultaneous event, all the damage caused by the hail, so the top end of the structure damage, although it was not damaged by the flood, would not be covered then.
The hail would on the roof, but the rest of the damage, even though let's say there's enough hail damage that came through the roof and it started flooding from the top down.
Okay.
That would normally be covered, right?
Right.
In this instance, it's not going to be. They're going to replace the roof, but they're not going to do
about it.
That's about it.
Okay. Interesting.
Yes.
Now, what can we do about that? Or we just stuck with that? Can we do it? Is there an endorsement for this?
Well, I mean, that's when you start looking at your flood policies, your earthquake policies, and your other different kinds of policies to go along with it.
Okay.
If this is a risk that you're not willing to take. Personally, I am, but not everybody is.
Okay. So if you're in a flood zone, you need to think about it anyway. But even if you're just on a creek, maybe that, you never know when that creek might rise up. And, we have wicked storms and they can coincide with flash flooding.
Yes.
So this is a great point that people aren't going to know about and aren't even going to think about. I never would have thought to think about this, something that was classified as a simultaneous event. I'm not surprised because obviously the insurance carriers want to figure out ways of not paying us for claims.
Absolutely.
But that's news to me. I've not heard of that.
And most people haven't. And it's not something that typically we discuss or anything else because the likelihood of it happening isn't very great for most people. But yes, people that are in if you're in a flood zone, well, you're going to have flood insurance anyway because I don't know very many carriers that are going to offer you a homeowner's policy without giving you a flood insurance for up to the policy limits as well.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, if you even in that instance that you do have a simultaneous event, you are still going to be covered because you have your flood insurance and you have your homeowner's insurance.
Sure. Okay. Well, fair enough. Well, and I know we have more points to get to, and it seems like we can only take one thing and then just take that for the whole time because we never have enough time. Folks, we've been talking with Richard Tonihka over at the Richard Tonihka Goosehead Insurance Agency. His website, richardtagency.com, and the phone number 817-286-2002. So if there's things on your policy that you don't know about, which trust me, there are, and you want to talk to the expert about that, give Richard a call. Folks, we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come on back. See you in a few.